Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today's video is going to be geared towards agents who are new in the business. If you have taken the test or if you're thinking about taking the test, we're going to be discussing what you need to do after you take the test and what the options you have as far as working with companies or working for yourself. I'm going to give you guys three options as well. But before we start, make sure you guys are following us, click the like button, and subscribe to our channel for new videos for the future to be notified to your inbox. With that said, let's get into it. Now, if you're a new agent or you are just wanting to become an agent, what do you do? Well, the first thing, obviously, is you have to take a license, which is required by the state of California or every state in the United States in order for you to do transactions in insurance. Without that license, you will not be able to do so. You have two different licenses that you have to take, which is one is for life license and health, and then the other one is for property and casualty to sell other products and services. Now, once you take your license, what is the first thing that you need to do? Well, a lot of people think this is an easy solution, easy answer, but a lot of times in my career, last 25 years, I've seen agents that actually have missed this step. I had, for example, a few agents that took the test, especially when they're duly licensed, and then after they took the test, they forgot to do what? Pay for that test. Now, if you don't pay for the test, guess what? After a certain period, it expires. Now you have to retake the test again. So make sure that once you pass your test, you actually go to the insurance website, insurance department, and pay for that licensing. Usually it takes about 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get your license issued. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier because everything is electronic, so it takes a little bit less time. You don't have to wait until your license arrives. You can print it right online. Now, once you take the test, once you pass it, what options do you have as far as employment or career? Well, there's different options you can choose from. There's actually 3 ways you can go. We're going to discuss those 3 ways. Now, what are those 3 ways that you can possibly go into as an agent once you take the test? Well, the first one is basically you can be a direct sales or direct consumer to carrier sales. What that means is you work for the carrier that directly sells to their consumers. There is no independent agents. There's no marketing group behind it. They sell directly to their consumers. Let's say, for example, if you're in a P&C business or property and casualty, you will be direct sales if you are in, let's say, Geico's and so on and so forth. And then there is a lot of life insurance carriers that have departments. They have, for example, they have the direct sales department. Then they have what's called marketing groups or independent agents that they hire to do the selling for them or to promote the products for them. Now, you can choose that. What's the advantage or disadvantage there? Now, the disadvantage there is you are on salary. Advantage is that you are on salary. But of course, when you are on salary or an hourly wage, no matter how much you produce, you're getting the same amount. If you're producing 50,000 premiums or 100,000 premiums and you're meeting your goals, you're actually leaving money on the table because they're going to pay you whatever is that maximum that they agreed to pay you. If it's $20 an hour, or if it's $3,000 a month, or $5,000 a month, if you produce $40,000 worth of production, then you're only getting paid for $3,000 instead of making $20, $30 on the same production that you're doing. And of course, they're giving you the clients, so that's one of the positives there, because you don't actually go fish for clients. You just take the inbound calls and you answer their questions and try to put them and move them into a product that they desire. That's the simplest way. That's one of the most common ways. And a lot of times when you go into direct sales, they will, before you take the test, they might train you and so on and so forth and then put you into the field after you pass your test. Now, if you don't like being on salary and you don't want to be limited, and I always tell people that once you take a salary, you're consistently on their mercy. You are consistently, and you are stably broke. Because no matter what you do, and your lifestyle doesn't change, because your lifestyle is controlled by who? The person that employs you. the person that pays you. Because if you're making a 3,000, your lifestyle is a 3,000 person. But in other categories of careers that you can choose from the same insurance industry, it gives you a lot more opportunities, and of course it doesn't come without risk. Now the second option that I'll be discussing is being a captive agent. What is a captive agent? Well, captive agent is, as it states, you're captive to a carrier. For example, captive agents could be, let's say on a property and casualty side, you have State Farm, Allstate, you have Farmers, and so on and so forth. Now, those groups are captive. Now, nowadays, they're able to give you other options. For example, I know that Allstate, if the case is declined, then you can move the client to another carrier within the group's permission and within the approved carriers. For example, same thing goes with Farmers, and I believe State Farm also has the same concept, but I'm not sure. So you can, if you know the situation, please comment below, and for everybody to take notice. But as far as captive agencies, you only are able to sell their products and services. For example, if they're life side, you can only sell the products approved by their company. You cannot go directly to other carriers that might be better suited for the client or might have better options. For example, certain companies don't have living benefits. Some companies do. But if you're in a captive agency, you will not be able to offer those clients outside of your agency, even though it is the proper product to sell to those clients. So you're tied to one company alone. Now, the advantage in that also is, well, you have a big name behind you. And a lot of the things also incorporated in this is that it's easier for you to get clients because of that name. They have a history. They have an advertising. They have all these things behind you. Let's say a system they might have that you can be placed. But of course, everything, again, comes with risk and comes with reward. Nothing is solid cons and then solid pros, right? You have to choose, and you have to outweigh the cons and pros for yourself and what your risk tolerance is. Just like anything you do. Less risk you take, less money you make. Higher the risk, the higher the reward. Every situation is the same way. Your career is the same situation at all times. Now, if you're in a captive agency, now, you are able, as an agent, you can go and work for a captive agency or any agency for salary plus commission. But if you wanted to take an opportunity to become an owner of the agency or to become an independent agency, and we will talk about that, now you have to actually, for example, in a captive agency, you have the opportunity, after working for them and getting the experience needed for you to be able to get a book of business from them, to continue working with them. Now, for example, Allstate and State Farm and Farmers, they will sell a book of business to you. They will finance it, or you can pay it cash. But usually, if you, for example, want to make $100,000 a year, or that book of business nets you $100,000 a year, that book of business will cost you approximately $300,000 or $400,000, sometimes $250,000, depending on the quality and what the type of business it's in that book of business. Now, you can do this outside of that also, as well as an independent. But as in the captive, they give you the book of business. Now you're servicing those clients. Now you're giving all the necessary things and adding clients to your book of business. Now, you now spent $300,000, $400,000 to buy that if you want to be a agent or owner of those captive agencies. You cannot just start without a book of business. It will not work. Or you need capital in order for you to start in those industries. They'll look at your finances. They look at your capital. You have to, for example, some carriers, captive carriers can require you to have a retail space instead of just an office. Or you cannot work from home. Or you cannot be in a small nuke office or within an organization. It has to be visible to the public. And of course, they will charge you for the signs and everything else situated in that contract. Now, the pros, again, like I said, well, you get a book of business, you have big support, but of course, now when it comes to commissions or the money that you make, it's the third of being independent. So the con is less commissions, but a book of business and an agent or a carrier that is backing you with their name. But at the end of the day, what happens is to a lot of agents, now a lot of agents are finding out that they have to meet the quotas. And if they don't meet the quotas, guess what happens? Let's say Allstate, Farmers, or anybody else out there, they will take your book of business because you're not meeting their standards, you're not meeting their quotas, you're not meeting their sales guides that you have to do certain premiums, certain life insurance, certain things that you have to have. They force you to do everything that they want to. You can't just take a vacation, or you cannot say, you know what, I have my book of business. I just want to service the book of business. I do not want to get as many clients as I want to. I'm satisfied with this book of business. But no, you will have goals. You will have quotas for you to meet. If you don't, then they will actually sell your book of business or force you to sell your book of business to another person or outside of it if you can. But a lot of times, if you can't find somebody to buy your book of business, guess what? They come in, they offer you what they think is the right price. So usually, instead of getting 3 or 4 times, you might get 1.5 times. Since you don't have the outside buyer and you don't have the time to sell your book of business, you will not be able to have any other choice to but sell that book of business. Otherwise, you might end up losing more. So those are the disadvantages of having or being with a captive agency, because you and your clients are not fully controlled by you. Yes, you work with their system, but at the same time, those clients are always going to be Allstate clients, State Farm clients, Farmers clients, Mercury, whatever it might be. Those are the clients of theirs because their name is attached to that. Your name is an agent, but at the same time, when you move or they take your book of business and give it to somebody else, that changes hands. And you no longer can possibly market these people, but most of the time your contract will not allow you to compete or take those clients from that book of business. Otherwise, you might be able to get sued, or even worse. You will not, if you're doing something unethical, they might actually pursue other actions against you. So there is a lot of negativity there. There's a lot of cons there that prevent you from becoming a true, fully owning your book of business. Now, we move on to the last one, which we are in. We're an independent agency and we carry our own business. We build our own business. We can buy book of business from someone else and incorporate it into our book of business and move that book of business anywhere we want to. That is one of the biggest advantages of being an independent from being a captive agency. Being an independent agency, number one benefit is that you are free to exercise your ability to shop around for your clients. For example, we have over 30 carriers on the property side, and then we have over 20, 30 carriers on the life side. So if one client is fitting in one certain category, then we can go into that category and into that carrier that best suits that client's needs, rather than just putting them into one. Second, not only we beat prices, and we compete very highly in rates, and we compete very competitive when it comes to, let's say, the captive agencies. We can probably save 20, 30, 40% sometimes from the carriers that come from captive to the carriers that we have outside of that captive range. So we're able not to only save money to the clients, but also as an independent agent, you are actually making more money servicing these clients. Second, your client is yours. You actually, as an independent agent, if you, for example, if you have in the life site, you have 100 clients with our book of business, or anywhere else you are that are you're independent and you control the commissions and it's paid to you directly, then once you move to another agency, all you have to do is just transfer your business over. You own your book of business fully. You have the ability to control whatever you write, whatever you build is yours to keep. Nobody else can come and force you to sell your book of business. For example, If I have $1 million of book of business and I have those clients within my book, no one, that carrier cannot come and say, you need to sell this book of business to us, and this is how much we are offering you. Otherwise, you cannot sell it somewhere else. Now, they can't do that. What they can do, if I'm not giving them quality of business, then they can say, well, we no longer want to do business with you because your loss ratios are high, your clientele is not the right clients, or the area is now being closed, or we're not offering anything in California. Now, that can happen. What happens in that case is that they stop having you write business. You can't no longer give clients or write clients with those carriers. Now, but what you can do is you can transfer those carriers onto another carrier without having an issue. They can't come back and say, hey, you know what, why are you stealing our clients? Because that is not their clients. That is our clients because we are independent. We do not abide by the laws and regulations of how we can transfer our clients, because that is our ability to do so and our decision. How are we going to move those clients, whether we are or not? We can choose to leave them there. For example, I have a lot of clients in, travelers. Travelers left California after the fires. So, and once they left after the fires permanently, they don't write any new business. They canceled all our contracts, said, you know what, we're not accepting any more business. What happened to those clients? Now, I can decide to move those clients, but a lot of my clients at Travelers, I had them stay there because it is very competitive and is an amazing company to be with, and I'm not going to harm my clients by moving them. Now, if their rates change, they get kicked out. Let's say, for example, they're not renewing. I had a lot of people like that when Travelers stopped renewing, and they kicked out consumers. And basically we had to find new carriers for those clients. Whether it was a homeowners or auto, they turned around and said, listen, after this policy expires, we're not going to renew your policy. You need to find another policy. So therefore, we can move those clients because now they have no choice, no options to go to. So, and independent, not only you make more money, but also you control your time, and you are in control of everything that you do in your book of business. You can sell it to anyone you want. It doesn't have to be approved by any carrier, and it doesn't have to be in a certain price point. For example, if you want to sell your book of business at 10 times, you can do so. If you have a quality of business and your business is consistent, and also you have, let's say, for example, 5, 6, 7, let's say employees, or 100 employees, or 20 employees, whatever it might be, on top of more independent agents that are working for you, then you'll be able to sell that book of business as much as you want to. There is no restriction. There is no guidelines as far as what you need to do. Of course, you cannot just give a wild number, but you'll be able to give a number that you want rather than what the carrier might force you to sell or give the number to you. So there's advantages there. Now, to be fair, I'm going to give you guys the disadvantage to keep this video a little bit shorter. Now, the disadvantage of it, of course, is that you're working on commissions only. You're building your business. Now, if you want to buy a book of business, like I said, just like, let's say, for example, the captive agents buy the book of business and they service, you're able to do the same thing with us, with without us. Let's say, for example, if you're doing it by yourself, you can purchase the book of business of someone else that's selling, and continue on servicing those clients and adding more clients to your book of business. That is your option. You can do so again, or you can build your business from ground up. Might be a slower process, but you know what the quality is. You know where the clients are. Let's say, for example, if you buy a book of business, you don't know what the clients are, how they were serviced, or maybe they were used to one person. And then all of a sudden you come in, you're not connecting with your clients. And then all of a sudden the clients are living by the droves. And then now you lost your book of business. You might lose 50%, 20%, 30%. You want to make sure that you service them or buy the book of business that comes with the people that are already in the business servicing these clients. So that way you're not the one who are. And also you're not bringing any new people to the business. Because at the end of the day, if that new person or new face changes, if anything doesn't go right, guess what? Those clients are fleeing. Those clients are moving away, and you're losing a lot of clients. So you got to make sure that you do the proper thing. But once once you build your business and renewals are coming at all times. So you can build it slowly, and you can also sell your book of business after you build the business. And independent, yes, you are on commission, but the risk is that yes, you might make zero for a few years. You might make minimal a few years, let's say if you're building. You might make only $3,000 a month for, let's say, 6 months or a year or 2 years. But then once you start building the business, now you're making 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, 11,000. And most of the time when you build your book of business, that business flows in without you doing anything other than servicing it. Now it's all just recycled. The clients are recycled, and it goes on this circle of wheel that continuously renews and renews and renews. Of course, assuming you are doing the proper things with the clients. We hope to see you guys next time. And if you have any assistance and guidelines, any assistance in becoming an agent or how to become an agent, let us know. We'll give you an advice. We'll tell you what it is. Regardless if you want to go with us or not, we'll be there for you to guide you. That's what we're here for. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.